Let's use Maker's Empire to make a key tag. We're going to start off by going to our Create tab. And we're using Shaper for this activity. In Shaper, you want to start by choosing a flat shape. So we start in basic shapes always. When we click on it, we will go to flat shapes. Now, I have access to all the flat shapes because I've bought a lot of them. You will probably have a lot of them locked, but don't worry, just click on it and you'll be able to go buy it. Now, you can also look at, there are a lot of different choices in the flat shapes, and, oh, it won't let us change here. There are some that aren't necessarily here, but let's check drawn, only because this is an odd thing. Some of these shapes, like that cat, ended up here. So I'm just going to see, click that red. So there are also some flat shapes in the drawn section. You can see they're sort of repeated. Now, some of them are truly drawn and you probably don't want those, but there's a butterfly and some other things like the cats and the dinosaur that you find in the drawn section. So either flat shapes or drawn. And to buy something, now when I clicked on it, it popped right up. So let's see. If I already own this. Yep. Didn't mean that. I was going to show you how to buy one, but it's pretty simple. Let me delete this. Click on something you want to get. It tells you in the corner how many tokens it is. If you want it, you click the green check. If you don't want it, you click the X. And anytime you want to get back to what you were doing in Maker's Empire, we look for that little arrow in the corner to go back a screen. So you can pick a shape out of drawn or flat, because we need something flat for our base. So, and you want to pick something that's going to give you space. Like that blob looks cool, but it really gives you very small space for actually adding decoration. So if you don't want to add a lot to it, maybe that's fine, but just be aware. I'm going to get, I think I'm going to get a little heart. So the first thing you're going to do is just get your shape. After you choose your shape, don't do anything to it. Don't change the color. Don't change the size. That will come in the next section of our video. And, but our first job is just find and choose your shape. Once we have our shape, the first thing, and colors don't really matter here. Let me just take a moment and address that. You can make your design any color you want. That is not the color it will be printed in. You'll choose that color later, but you can make it any design you want. So to pick colors, you can see we can just click over here while the shape is highlighted. If the shape is not highlighted, it's not going to do anything. You have to highlight the shape. So, and if you want, you can see the little dots. That lets you choose other colors that might not be there. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. What I want you to do is change the size. So we're going to do a few things. We're going to change the size and make sure it's at the right place. So this, with the 4 arrows pointing in the corner, is for resizing. When you click on it, we get the precision resize tools. So we can, if I click on one of these tabs, or I can drag them, And you can see we can type numbers in here, which you might have done in some of your trainings. When there are 4 arrows, that's fixed resize, which means when I make the changes, the whole shape grows equally. I'm going to undo that. To change it to free resize, you click this little circle with the arrow. So you can see now the 2 arrows. So 4 arrows, everything changes at once. 2 arrows, you can make specific changes, like this. If I just want to change my shape like that, I can do that, or stretch it like that. So you can see the whole thing isn't growing at the same time. They're growing one at a time. Now, I'm going to put it back to the fixed resize. When you're looking at your shape, the width, or the part going across, your widest part, you want it to be between 40 and 50 millimeters. So I want to keep my heart shape a heart. Depending upon your shape, you might want it to be free resize so that not all of it changes, but I think we'll start with it all changing. So going across on this one, you can see is red. And the red matches up with X. So you see how the colors match? Now we don't see anything blue yet. If you rotate, which you click, and while you're clicking, hold down and drag, you can tilt. So when I click on my sizing here, now I can see the blue, and that's our up and down or our height. But right now we're going to worry about the size, our work surface. So we want to be at least 40, no larger than 50 on either our X or our Y. So I'm going to make my X, I'm going to go 45, because that's right in the middle. And then just press return, and it'll make your shape. Now, my Y is at 39.1. That sounds great. My X is at 4.5. That's good. You don't want it really to be bigger than 5 millimeters. So if it is, you go to your free resize, and you can either drag it lower, or I can type right in here. So I could just write like, or 4. But we don't want it, we don't want it to be 1 or 2. We want it to be between 3 and 5, the Z. As long as that number's between 3 and 5, you're good. And as long as your X is between 45 and 50, you're good. Now that we've made these changes, if you can see when I rotate, you can see now part of my heart is below the workspace. We're going to fix that. So anytime you click on a shape, you get your tools. I'm going to click the move. Now, same thing. Moving, the precision move, we can use these tools which help us move in a precise way. Like if I drag this, I can only go side to side, not up and down. So it helps me not sort of accidentally move things in a crazy way. Here's what we want though. Our Z, we want our Z to be at 0. Doesn't matter where your X and your Y are. We want our Z for our base to be at 0. So right now we've only done 2 things. We've made our size larger, and we've made our move, after we make it larger, we make sure our Z is at 0. All that does is lift your shape up. It's like putting your shape on the table instead of sticking out below the table. You're going to do just those 2 things right now, and then you'll come back to the video to do the next things. Okay, decorating our shape. So when we decorate our shape, we could either add other shapes to it to create decorations. And we can also add words. I'm going to start with words. Now, I can't see that, so I'm going to make it a different color. To change our text, you can see it's right here, but we have to type up here in this box. So it starts off highlighted if you just delete it, or you can type it. I'm going to, I don't even know what I want my tag to say. Say, what? Or how about care? Now, I want to write a few words. Actually, I think I'm just going to write, I love, what? Now you can see it gets bigger and whatever. A lot of times we don't want to have many words in one text box, because you can't press return. They all go on one line. So if I wanted to write I love cats, you can see when I resize it, and be careful, right now it's on 2. I think I will keep it on 2. So I can click and drag in different ways. Or again, I can use my precision. But you can see, I'm going to start having to get really small to make it fit. And if you make it this small, you can see it on your computer, but it will not be big enough when you print it. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And the best way, hopefully I got rid of it, yep. The best way to add text is one word at a time. Now, if you're only writing one word, that's fine. But think about your space and how you're going to use things. So I'm going to start with the word cats. I'm going to change this to the 4, fixed resize. Make it so it fits. And you need to be sure that your words are at least 3 millimeters tall. All of your decorations, everything, at least 3 millimeters tall. Do you see how narrow and thin that is? That will be hard to see when we print, because we print in one color. So you want it to be taller. Now, if it's on fixed resize, all 4, when I try to make it taller, it's going to make everything bigger. Watch. Whoop. It's getting smaller. See that? That's not what I want. By the way, your undo button is your friend. I have to undo all the time. Rather than trying to put it back, use the undo. So I want to switch that so it has 2 arrows. And I want this, my Z, I'm just going to type it in. I'm going to click and write 3 and press return. Now I know it's tall enough. And I know that cats fits. Now, I want my other word to be about the same size, so I'm going to use the duplicate tool. To do that, I click the menu, which, by the way, you also have your delete here. And this one, copy, is to duplicate. Then I'm going to move it using this tool to where I want it. And I'm going to change it to I. What? And I'm going to get it. So, and I'm going to move my cats down. And you're going to be doing a little arranging as you go. So I think I'm going to put my I, and then I could always put a heart if I wanted. Now you can also free drag. See here, I can just drag it anywhere, but this keeps you more precise. So I could make something like that. Now you need to turn your thing sideways, because look, you see how that looked great? And then when I look at it from the side, anytime, it tends to add things, Maker's Empire, by stacking on top. So I need to move this down, which the precision tool is the best way. And you need to make sure that it's still floating. It's also not tall enough. So I'm going to switch it to free resize, make my Z. I'm going to make it 4, and here's why. So I made it a little taller than the others, but it's easier for me if I can squish it in a little. So there, you can see now how it goes in, kind of like when you work with clay, you squish the pieces together. All right, so I have I Heart Cats. All right, so you can add decorations, so other shapes. You can add words. You want to be careful with your space. And you know, I think I'm going to make my words a tiny bit taller, only because my heart is taller, so I want them to be kind of the same. I also could have used the cat face. But whatever you decide to put on, words, other pictures, other shapes, if you want to create your own shapes, when you have it all finished, you'll be ready for the next part. So right now, you're going to go add text and maybe shapes, up to you. And they don't have to be flat shapes. They could be other shapes. They do need to be squished in, so we have some fun shapes. You can see here, like in World Peace. Think of it as like decorating a cake. You're putting things on top. Make sure everything is securely attached, not floating above, not sticking out below, and make sure they are at least 3 millimeters tall. So when we click here, remember 2 arrows, free resize. This needs to be at least 3. It could be 4. You probably don't want it to be much more than that. If it's like 5, 6, it starts getting too tall and weird. But yeah, I could put this flower on. So I also don't have to have any words. Let me make sure you know how to delete something. First, I can click on something, and if it's highlighted, when I just press the delete key on my keyboard, well, in text it doesn't do it. In text it deletes the words. Let me try that again with a shape. If I just press delete on my keyboard, oh, look at that, it doesn't do it anymore. So ignore Miss G. To delete something, you click on it, you click on the little menu here, and you see the trash can. You can't drag things off to the side. If you leave floating parts around, that's actually part of your design, and your design won't print. But your job is going to be to decorate your tag however you want. Make sure you don't have things sticking off of the side. Again, think of like you're frosting a cake. That's not going to work. If it's off to the side, it needs to be at 0. Remember, we put our Z at 0, as in level with your key tag. But that's not what we're doing. You can add words if you want, letters. You can add other shapes. You cannot add other shapes that will not sit flat. And let me explain that. So I can add this square, although I don't know why I would want a square or a cube on a key tag, but you know, if it's the right size, I could have a shape like that. I know it's weird, but just want you to see. That would be okay. Obviously, you wouldn't want it to be too big. So again, it would probably need to be a little shorter, but you get the idea. We can have things that are not necessarily flat, like the flat shapes and the letters. What we can't have, let me see if I can find something that might, oh, here's a perfect. Like these, we don't want these. They would not work because they have gaps and space, and we can't have gaps and space. Or let's say, Well, this one would sort of create that. I'm going to get this. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not spending 25 tokens on that. There used to be other ones that were easier. Oh, here we go. Where are the character parts? There we go. That's what I'll get. So here's a perfect example. I'm going to get these legs. Okay. So if I add these to my chain, maybe I want to have a little character on my key tag. Okay. Do you see how underneath the legs here, there's air, like that's floating space. We can't have that because we can't put anything above it, and this has something above it. That won't work. So you can't have things that have gaps of air, I guess, between the tag base and what you're adding. As long as it's like you're decorating a cake, you're kind of stacking it on top, you're good. But get your decorations done. When you choose your fonts, you do not want any narrow fonts. And some of these that might look fun, like that one, they don't print very well. You need to have nice, thick, clear fonts. So you really want to choose anything that says bold next to the name, or if it kind of is bold, but like impact, that would work. Junction, that wouldn't work. Do you see how it's thin? So some of these might look fun. Yep, that one won't be good either. You don't want anything too narrow, and that one doesn't print at all. So stick to the ones that have bold next to them or are bold when you're choosing your font, because anything too narrow will not print well. And then you'll come back for your final step. Okay, now that you have your tag all set to go, the last thing you're going to do is add the ring. We find our ring in basic shapes. You can see it right there. Now when I add it, the first thing it wants to do is go on top. Right, that's not what we want. So you're going to use your precision move, and you're going to drag it to where you want. So you might want it right in the middle of your tag. So if I lower it, it would be right there. In fact, I'll lower it now. Now there's two ways we can lower it. One, I can tip it to the side and drag it down. And again, if you click, you'll have these, which will be easier to use for precision moving. Or another way we can lower it, and I'll undo that. Remember, we put our base at 0. So if I tap that and it's still at Z0, you want to make sure you didn't accidentally move it. I can take my ring now and put the Z at 0. And that's a really fast way to get it super even with my base. Now, you also need to make sure that it's not sticking out on the top or the bottom. So you might need to, if it's sticking out, like I'll lower this a little. When you look underneath, we don't want to see that. That'll create a problem when you're printing. Now, we can print it if it's sticking out at the top, but you probably don't want that. So if you need to check your sizes or adjust your sizes, you might need to make your ring a little more thin. However, you don't want it too thin. So if I tap this and look, it's at 3.6 millimeters. That's great. It could even be like 2.5, absolutely nothing less than 2. So I could put it there. We don't need to have the whole ring sticking out. And you see, we want it squished in. You want to be able to hook it on something. I could also put it off to the side if I wanted. So maybe you want yours kind of hanging, thinking about how you want your tag to hang. And you want to make sure that it's not sticking out above or below. So you want it squished in and not sticking out above or below. And then you're ready. I always like to turn my designs when I'm all done so that they're facing this way. And that way I can see them. If there's like that, you can't really see it in the preview, but I can see it like this. When you click finish, your name needs to have your first name, a space, your class code, so I'm just going to call mine 2G, a space, and the word tag. So mine would be Michelle 2G tag. Yours will be your first name, your class code, and the word tag. And then you click done. And you might get like a little award or something anytime you get those little things. And you see how in my preview, and if I go to my designs, I can see my tag really well because I have it tilted. You can see I like to put all my designs like that. So your last job, and I'll show you what happens when you do it like this, is put your ring on, give it a name with, like I said, with following the directions, and you can see the preview now isn't so useful. That's why it's a good idea to have it like this. Okay. And then you're good to go. The next thing you'll do will be to get most likely a 3D printing checklist to fill out.